Strasbourg, July 1518. The sun hangs heavy over cobbled streets. The plague is gone, but something far stranger is about to take its place. A woman walks into the street and begins to dance. She doesn't stop. An hour passes, then 2, then 5. By nightfall, she is still dancing. Her arms flail, her feet bleed, her eyes are wide, as though trapped in her own body. She does not stop the next day either, nor the next. And soon, dozens more join her. By the end of the month, hundreds are dancing. Some collapse, some scream for help, some dance until they die. This is not a parable, this is not a myth. This happened, and we still don't know why. It began in mid-July 1518. A woman named Frau Trophea, seemingly possessed by a force she could not explain, stepped into the narrow lanes of Strasbourg and began to move. There was no music, no celebration, just the violent, repetitive rhythm of her own body. People stared, then worried, and then they watched as she continued for hours, dancing as if cursed. The next morning she returned. Her movements no longer looked voluntary. Her face showed no joy, only pain. 3 days later, she was still at it. And by then, a small crowd had joined her. By the end of the week, 34 people were dancing non-stop. By the end of the month, that number rose to over 400 men. Women, even children. Some collapsed and got back up. Some screamed prayers while spinning in circles. Others reportedly wept while dancing, their faces soaked in sweat and confusion. They danced in public squares, in alleyways, in front of churches, day and night, under the beating sun and through pouring rain. City officials panicked. What could cause hundreds to behave this way? Some believed it was demonic possession. Others thought it divine punishment, a judgment from Saint Vitus, patron saint of dancing and epilepsy. But the response that came next was possibly even more insane than the event itself. The city council, led by physicians and scholars, rejected the idea of spiritual or demonic influence. Their diagnosis: overheated blood. They believed these victims were suffering from a natural imbalance of bodily humors, specifically excess heat trapped inside them seeking release. Their solution? Let them dance it out. They cleared a space in the town square. They hired musicians to accompany the dancers. They even built a wooden stage, believing structured movement and music would purge the illness faster. But the opposite happened. The dancing intensified. Eyewitnesses reported dozens collapsing from exhaustion. Some suffered strokes, some had heart attacks in the street. Others danced until their feet were mangled and infected, unable to stop despite the agony. And still, new dancers joined the mob each day. No one could explain it, and no one could make it stop. By August, the situation became a full-blown public health emergency. Local priests were summoned to perform mass exorcisms. Citizens fasted, prayed, and built altars to appease saints. The city, once bustling with trade and recovery from recent plagues, now trembled under the weight of a new fear: that the human mind itself could unravel overnight. Authorities reversed course. The musicians were sent home. The dancers were now seen not as patients, but as cursed. The council ordered the dancers rounded up. Those still able to walk were led to the shrine of Saint Vitus in the Vosges Mountains, where priests performed rituals and anointed their feet with holy oil. And slowly, the plague seemed to stop. But it left no answers behind. Modern historians and scientists have tried to explain the 1518 dancing plague for centuries. Here are the leading theories. 1. Ergot poisoning, a toxic mold that grows on damp rye. It produces hallucinogenic effects similar to LSD. Victims may have convulsed, hallucinated, and lost control of their limbs. But this theory has problems. Ergot would have affected people differently, causing seizures, not synchronized dancing, and it wouldn't have lasted weeks. 2. Mass hysteria, mass psychogenic illness. A more accepted theory suggests the event was a case of collective stress response. The 1500s were brutal: famines, disease, religious persecution. Strasbourg was reeling from malnutrition, heat waves, and recent plagues. Under intense stress, people may have entered trance-like states, dissociating through movement. But that leads to a darker realization, that we as humans can literally lose control of our minds and bodies when pushed too far. 3. Religious fervor and cult behavior. Saint Vitus was widely feared. Some believed he could curse sinners with uncontrollable dancing. Was the plague a form of spiritual panic? A contagious display of piety gone wrong? Or something even stranger? As unbelievable as it sounds, this wasn't the only time it happened. Similar outbreaks were recorded in Aachen, 1374. Hundreds danced through the streets until death. Apulia, Italy, 15th century. Victims of tarantula bites were said to dance wildly, leading to the term tarantism. Madagascar, 1840s. Possession dances spread among communities, blamed on spirits. Across cultures and centuries, this phenomenon appears again and again. Different names, different faces, but the same horror. Human beings losing control, dancing themselves to death. The real terror of the dancing plague isn't the event itself. It's what it tells us about ourselves. We are fragile. Our minds, no matter how rational, can be broken by fear, grief, hunger, and mass delusion. And perhaps most disturbingly, our bodies can betray us, pulled by unseen forces, unable to stop, even when we know we should. No one ever solved the dancing plague of 1518. It faded as mysteriously as it came. No records of punishment, no definitive cure, just confusion and silence, and the memory of a city that danced until it bled. Today, in the city of Strasbourg, there is no monument to the dancers, no plaque, no shrine. But if you walk the narrow streets at dusk, if you stand in the market square where it all began, you may feel a chill, a whisper of footsteps, the echo of those who spun and stumbled and screamed and fell, not for joy, but because they couldn't stop. The world remembers wars, it remembers kings, but every so often it should remember the madness too, because what happened in 1518 may not be over. It may only be sleeping. The plague is gone, but the rhythm remains.